Welcome. I'm going to be teaching you guys about upper body anatomy for lifters. There's going to be a quick presentation about, the different muscle regions of the different muscle actions of the upper body, various regions, origins, insertions, etc., and then training applications. How do we apply this information to our training to make sure we're getting the most bang for our buck? So, first slide, we're going to be talking about the pecs. Now, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I don't want to overcomplicate it. There's a lot of nuance here, but basically, I just want to give you guys the gist and what I think you guys should know or would be nice to know for your training. So, with the pecs, we're specifically referencing the pec major. I don't give a fuck about the pec minor. If you're worried about rehab, you could focus on that, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the pec major. So, with the pecs, there are three regions, right? You have your clavicular pecs, which are going to originate on the clavicle here, as in fucking clavicular, as in the name, right? And they're going to insert in the upper arm. Basically, all the pecs, all heads of the pecs are going to insert at the upper arm. So I'm going to get that out of the way right now. Then you have your sternal pecs, right? These are going to insert at the sternum. Then you have the costal pecs, which is upper ribs. They're going to attach at the upper ribs, as you see here. So this is kind of how we, break up the regions of the pecs. Now, the clavicular fibers, they have better leverage at flexing the shoulder. Now, looking at this picture, you should already know this. This makes sense, right? Look at the orientation of the fibers. This is what we call a pennation angle, right? So with the pecs, and with any muscle in particular, they can only transmit force in the direction that the fibers are aligned with, right? So look at this angle. If they shorten, it is going to bring the arm up and across the body like this, right? That's what's going to happen. If the upper pecs shorten, that's what's going to happen. Now we have the sternal pecs. As you can see here, the angle, very horizontal. It's more horizontal than the other ones. That means this is going to have best leverage at horizontal adduction, bringing the arm across the body. Now, all three regions are going to contribute to horizontal adduction. All three. I hear people say isolate the pecs. You cannot do that. You're not isolating shit. You can bias particular regions based on the muscle action you're performing. Like if I want to work my upper pec, I can incorporate a little bit of shoulder flexion in there as well, as in maybe an incline bench press, as long as my arm is adducted close to the shoulder. Because as you can see, close to the body, it's going to have more of an internal moment here. So you could bias regions, can't isolate them, okay? And the costal fibers can leverage shoulder extension. So when we're pressing downward, that shoulder extension, as you can see, we're more aligned with the fibers here, right? Look at this. If it shortens, it can bring my arm down, okay? Like that. And that is kind of the pecs simplified. They do benefit from a little bit of a longer length training, so you can, train them at longer lengths. As far as training applications go, presses are great. A lot of people can just get away with a press. A lot of you guys can get away with just a press. Flies are great as well at quote-unquote more isolating the pec, because if you think about it, we're taking out some of the other muscles that would be taking over in the presses, like the triceps, for example. So, for example, if a client of mine had a really massive fucking triceps in a really, really poopy chest, and I analyzed their pressing mechanics and it all looked okay, it looked biomechanically sound, I would throw in maybe a fly instead. So that's another reason that you could opt for a fly instead of a press. Now, the traps. Love the traps. We love the traps. It's the fucking bulldog look that everyone wants, So there's three regions of the traps. You have your upper fibers, which is going to pull the scapula back, retraction of the scapula. When I say traps, I want you to think retraction. Okay, that's their main function. But the upper traps, as you can see, like we were talking about, look at the angle here. If we're talking about the upper traps, if these things shorten, what is it going to do? Okay, it's going to pull the back, the traps, the scapula back and up. I didn't script this shit, so I'm going right off the dome here, and I'm tired. So you're getting me in, you're getting the JP in the flesh per usual, man. Okay, unedited, normal last video. That's how we do it. So gonna pull them up and back. That's what we're doing. Now, when I say elevation, a lot of people are gonna go do this. Oh, yeah, let's just train the trap. What are you doing, buddy? Come on. I said up and back. Okay, we have a muscle called the levator scapula that does a pretty handsome job at this already. So, that being said, what I want you to do, if you're trying to train upper traps, what you would do is some sort of, maybe a calso shrug would be nice, right? Because you're doing elevation and retraction at the same time. So instead of shrugging, if we wanted to train traps with a shrug, for example, instead of shrugging like this, I would shrug up and back like that. But I could also be on a bench have some sort of chest support here. That would help out too. Better brace. The mid-traps run in a similar direction to the rhomboids. When I say rhomboids are deep to the traps. They're always going to be working when you're retracting the scapula. Really no way around that. And they perform a very, very similar muscle action to the traps. So I'm just going to, they do the same fucking thing, basically, essentially. The mid-traps are really good at retracting the scapula, just pulling it back. And as you can see with the mid-traps, you see how they just kind of run this way, purely horizontal for the most part. That means they're not going to want to pull the scapula in any particular direction. They're really just going to be retracting it. And they attach to the scapula and onto the spine. Okay? Lower trap fibers are when basically, look at this angle here. We were talking about how a muscle, or muscle fibers, can only really transmit force in that direction that they attach to the tendon, right? So look, this attached to the tendon here. And you can see right here, tendon, it's only going to transmit force this way, this kind of upward, vertical, and horizontal component direction. So that's what it's going to be doing. Now, this means when it shortens, what is it going to do? Depress. Okay? No, I do not mean the condition that you have when a girl rejects you. Okay? That's not what I mean. I mean pull the traps down like this. But it's going to pull the scapula down. I keep saying traps. Pull the scapula down. This is what happens when you don't script. You just start yapping. But it's going to pull the scapula down. Depression of the scapula. And that's what the lower trap fibers are going to do when they are contracted. As you could fucking see, right? Closing that distance. It's going to pull one end, the insertion point, closer to the origin point. That's what's going to happen. So, what is the practical takeaway from this? The traps are great at stabilizing. They provide a shit ton of stability, and that is why they are so good and special. Okay? To train your traps, what you could do is any sort of row variation. You could do a shrug as well, particularly a calso shrug, where you are kind of on a bench like this, pulled over, retracting that scapula, because that's really what the traps are doing best. That's what I want to worry about. I'm not going to worry about the other things. Now, we can also talk a little bit about, the upward and downward rotation component of the scapula. Okay, so what I mean by that is this inferior angle, inferior meaning below, of the scapula, this guy right here. When it upwardly rotates, it goes beep outward like that. The traps can participate in that as well, and they work in tandem to move that guy up. And then to downwardly rotate it, you have that levator scapula pec minor and rhomboid working maybe a little bit more here. And that means that inferior angle of the scapula is moving downward. And you can see it happens naturally as you do this and this. And there's a big, I actually want to hit home on this. There's a big mistake I see a lot of my clients and even lifters make is they try to pinch the scap in a ton of movements. But what we fail to realize is the fucking arm and the scapula, they love each other. They're connected, okay? They love each other. So let's not try to restrict or try to manipulate things going at the scapula when we are doing these movements. And I can give you kind of form and technique cues as we go on here. But practical application takeaway, any kind of shrug variation where you're kind of going back as well would be nice. So retract the scapula, guys. Row, shrug, doesn't matter. Retract your fucking scapula. I don't care. Now, oh my God, I'm going to have people comment. Okay, yeah, I mean, you could also do like some upward rotation work with a cable. I'm not even going to explain that. It's too much. Too much. Not confusing. I said I'm not going to confuse you guys. That's not what I'm doing here. So with the lats, there are 3 regions. A lot of people just say upper lower. That is kind of correct because you're not really, well, okay. So again, controversy here. Some people like to say that you can bias the upper lower lats. Some people say that you can't. I will just give my perspective and I will give you guys the insights and you guys can form your own conclusions. So with these 3 regions, all of them wrap around and insert on the humerus right here on the bicipital groove of the humerus. Okay. Some people have it insert on the scapula. I'm not going to talk about that. It's not really necessary for what we're going to talk about here. I'm just going to talk about this. What do we think the lats are doing? Okay. They're going to pull the upper arm close to the body. I don't care about the depression of the scapula. Some people are saying it depresses the scapula. I don't care. I do not care. Pulls the upper arm close to the body. Let's keep it simple. Let's just train, okay? Pulls the upper arm close to the body. Now, when we're talking about the upper regions, you have your thoracic and your lumbar. Thoracic meaning thoracic spine, lumbar meaning lumbar spine, different vertebrae. And then you also have your iliac, right? So they insert at the ilium, the iliac crest right here, and those are going to run more vertical. So the argument that people were saying is that the iliac fibers can assist more in adduction, pulling the arm down, because they run more vertical. And then the kind of upper lats can do more of the shoulder extension component because they run more horizontal via sagittal plane, so rowing. Now, the counter argument is that the lats, as you can see, they all wrap around and have the same insertion point. Okay, they all wrap around and then they come around here, attaching the bicipital groove of the humerus. So do with that information as you will, but that is just kind of what I'm giving you. I'm just giving you the rundown, giving you both sides here, but I'll also tell you practical application, how we can actually use this information. So lats are going to work best when the arm is close to the body, closer to the rib cage, because it's going to have better leverage at that point. Okay, when we're out here, lats aren't liking that very much. That's why when we do rowing movements, I always tell my clients this, out here, traps, here, lats. Traps, lats, traps, lats. See that? See the difference? When I'm here, traps, closer, lats. In between would be like a hybrid. Getting a little bit of... Now, you're not going to fucking totally isolate both of them, okay? I'm not acting like you're not going to get any activation of the traps if you're like this. There's just going to be more lats. It's going to be heavily more lats when you're like this. So when we're doing our rows, the key takeaway is the arm path is going to determine what's being worked. What's the prime mover? So the arm path, like this, lats, traps. Let's just fucking keep it simple, guys. Now, what are the functions of the lats? Okay, it's going to be doing shoulder adduction, this, shoulder extension, bringing it backwards, and then it can also do internal rotation of the humerus. And this is not really something I want to worry about too much, but you see here how it inserts the bicipital groove and how it inserts on the inside. Basically what that means is it's going to turn the humerus in, and it can do that. You'll even feel your lat move if you do that, but that is what the lat is doing. How do we do this in our training? You can do, honestly, a lot of people would be okay with just doing a frontal plane pull down. So what do I mean? A lat pull down is fine. Pulls are great. Anything like that is fine. We just want to pick exercises that are stable and they work the muscle actions that we're trying to target. I like doing both a row. So I like doing one day on my back training, I have a row. Another day in my week, I have a pull down. Just because I like that variation. And I think it's good to train multiple muscle actions. So you could do a pull down one day and a row the other day, or you could just choose one. Doesn't matter all that much. And then I guess for a pull down, what I kind of want to say here, as far as a form takeaway, I see a lot of clients do this when I initially start with them. What are we doing, guys? Come on. Stop moving so fucking much. You're using a lot of momentum. And we arch the back like this, and we're out here. You're turning it into a fucking row. You see? I'm turning it into more of a row. That's not what I want to do. I want to be in the frontal plane. I want to adduct my arm. So a good cue is actually just doing your lat pull down like a fucking pull-up. And then don't even worry about anything else, but drive the upper arm down and let the scapula do the rest. Let the scap just move. Don't pinch the scap. It's a pet peeve of mine when I see lifters do this. What? Stop it. The scapula moves with the humerus. They move together. So stop fucking pinching shit. Stop it. Just let it move. Drive the elbow down. That's what I want to say. That's kind of all I want to talk about. The lats. Let's go to the next one. Oh, okay. The lats. I want to basically tell you guys that the only takeaway I have from this picture, Chris Beards made a nice little graph here, that the lats are not really doing don't really have any leverage up here. Okay. So in the pull down, lats aren't really doing much. What's really working is the pec, tricep, etc. And they're going to kind of pull, they're going to initiate that shoulder extension component at the top of the movement. So there's not really a point in doing this in your lat pull down when you come up and leaning forward, because the lats aren't doing shit anyway. There's not really a point in that. So you could just kind of come up and then come down. That's the practical takeaway. Oh yeah, deltoids. Okay. So I'm going to just say there's three main regions. There's more than that, but there's just sub-regions. I'm saying three main regions. I'm keeping this simple. Like I said, you have the anterior or front. This originates on the clavicle. This is going to be flexing the shoulder. As you can see, the fiber orientation, bringing the shoulder up, big, like that. You have the lateral head out here, the middle. It attaches at the acromion of the scapula, this guy right here, and then the same place, the upper arm, and it gains leverage through abduction. So the farther we go out, gains leverage. At the initial, part of a lateral raise, the subscapularis is going to kind of initiate that movement around 15 degrees or so. The lateral head is kind of going to take over and do the rest. So how do we train the lateral head? Okay. You can do a lateral raise. You can even do a fuck is it? Upright row. Yeah, the upright row like this, right? Because those are basically the same fucking thing. And that would train the lateral of the delt because you are abducting the arm, bringing the arm out. That's what you're doing. Now, you can do an overhead press as well. You know, there's a lot of debate going on. The overhead press, does it work the middle delt as much as, does it work the middle delt as much as it works the anterior head? Now, with the overhead press, you have to remember that with the shoulder joint, you're externally rotating that, right? You're externally rotating that GH joint, so you're shifting that lateral head to the back. So you are disadvantaging it a little bit, okay? Now, I think, yes, it's going to be worked maximizing, not as much. So I always throw in a lateral raise as well. Me personally, I just do an overhead press one day and a lateral raise on the other day, and I'm good to go on that front. However, if you have overdeveloped front delts, which, to be honest, front delts are not a concern for most people because it flexes the shoulder. If you're doing any pressing, you're going to be getting plenty of anterior delt activation, interior front, whatever you want to call it. So you can, a lot of people can literally just drop the fucking overhead press and literally just do lateral raises or upright rows. And then with the rear or posterior delt, it extends the shoulder, okay? So it's spine of the scapula. It extends the shoulder, as you can see based on the fiber orientation here. Now, what I want to say, if you're doing a row, if you are doing a row like this, your rear delt is getting plenty of action. It's getting plenty of action. It's going to extend the shoulder. There's plenty of movements we do in our training that extend the shoulder. So that's why, like, rear delt flies are kind of the last thing I program, unless it's someone who I can clearly see as a rear delt imbalance. Their rear delts are just smaller than shit. Then I'll program something like that. But really, it's the last thing I program because the rear delts are already getting worked in a lot of movements, guys. So isolation work, not that important. Okay, let's talk about the elbow flexors. Ooh, this one's a good one. Okay, so biceps, you have two heads, long and short. Don't worry about isolating the heads. I'm not going to even talk. It doesn't matter. Stop it. You're not isolating shit. Quit it. Biceps have better leverage at longer lengths. So what does that mean? It means at longer lengths, when in more degrees of, I guess, extension, less degrees of flexion, I'll call it. So when we're less flexed, the biceps have better leverage, okay? So they have better leverage to flex the elbow. And people are going to be talking about, oh, you know, it flexes the shoulder. Okay, shut up. You know, the biceps, you're not really going to have a mechanical advantage there at the biceps to flex the shoulder a lot. So I'm not even going to talk about that. Doesn't matter. But really all we need to do is flex your fucking elbow. Now, the brachialis has good leverage at short lengths in full flexion, okay? So when it's fully flexed, like at the top of a preacher curl, for example, the brachioradialis is going to gain leverage. So we want to pick, if our goal is to target the biceps, we want to pick a machine, weight, whatever, some kind of exercise that has a weight that gets heavier toward the bottom, okay? Because it's heavier toward the bottom, that's where the biceps are going to be activated the most. So picking something like that would be ideal for biceps training, okay? Now, the stretch isn't always better because I hear people talking about Bayesian curls and the stretch, but the biceps sarcomeres are the smallest unit of contraction. They have the actin myosins. You don't reach the descending limb, okay? So that means they can't be stretched past their optimum length. If they can't be stretched past that point, your body won't adapt to meet the threshold. When, for example, right, the quads, they benefit from stretch and median hypertrophy because their sarcomeres extend sufficiently past that, on that descending limb, meaning they can have enough passive tension on them, okay? When that happens, they reach that threshold, the actin and myosin filament overlap is reduced, the body, your brain goes, oh fuck, we have to adapt. We need to add some sarcomeres so we can, you know, we can help. We can produce more force. We can fix or resolve this myosin overlap issue per se. So that's where sarcomeres would be put in series with another. I'm getting way too off track here. This is what happens when I nerd out, but basically the stretch is not always better with this, okay? Now, there's some debates going on about preacher curls versus arm by the side. Okay, yes, if your arm is flexed, since the bicep is a bipennate muscle or the long head is a bipennate, yeah, technically both are bipennate, but since both, when you flex the shoulder, right, and you're here, I'm just going to give you an extreme example. Go up here and try to do a curl. You're going to cramp up. You're going to cramp the fuck up. So grab a cable. I want you to go up here and curl. You are going to cramp. That bicep is going to cramp. It's not going to be able to produce a lot of force there. So that's why people are saying that the preacher curl is vaulted, quote unquote. No. Okay, most preacher curls, they're not even going to be in high degrees of flexion anyway. Don't fucking worry about it. Not a big deal. But I think that kind of covers everything I want to talk about the elbow flexor complex. Yes, you can. The biceps do play a role in supination as well. I will never be seen programming desupination for my clients. It will never happen. So, not going to happen with me. This is to show you the biceps brachii activation at longer muscle lengths and how it's higher. So as you can see here, long muscle lengths, the bicep brachii loves that. It loves its leverage. And then as you can see here, as we go shorter and shorter and shorter, the brachioradialis tends to take over. And one more thing too, a lot of people talk about the brachialis. As you can see here, this is the brachialis. Okay, it is a very, very similar, it's kind of like fusiform, like the biceps, right? So it has a similar pennation angle to the biceps, meaning it's always going to participate in elbow flexion to some degree, the brachialis is. Now the triceps, okay, you have three heads. You have your long, okay, which is the bipennate muscle, because it originates shoulder, inserts here. So that is going to play a role in shoulder extension as well as elbow flexion too. But then you also have your lateral medial, which are only going to be acting at the elbow joint, because they don't cross the shoulder joint. Now all regions, like I said, do elbow extension. So the long head is biarticular, because it does shoulder extension too. So if we're trying to train the long head, we want to pick a movement training takeaway where the shoulder joint is fixed. If the shoulder and the elbow are moving at the same time, all you have to think about is the long head does not like that too much. Okay, keep the shoulder fixed, extend the elbow. The long head likes that a little bit better. So training takeaways, big presses, going heavy on presses, will also work the medial and lateral heads. I don't think it's worth it trying to articulate or calculate how much arbitrary volume you're getting in or how much indirect stimulus. Oh, I'm getting 0.5 sets of my triceps because no. Just take this into account with your training, okay? Just take it into account and be intelligent going forward with this. So if I'm doing a chest press, for example, that is heavier toward the top, gets a lot heavier toward the top. I'm realizing that my triceps are involved pretty substantially in this movement. I might reduce my triceps volume later in the workout to compensate for this. That's it. Just take this into account. You don't have to assign a arbitrary number to it. That's fine. Just take it into account. And I think the arm at the side, stimp blast tricep extension is fine. If you just extend your elbow, you're going to be good. Now, if you want to go higher degrees of shoulder flexion, that is going to bias more so the medial and lateral heads, because the long head loses leverage. The long head is the best leverage at the side here, but that is getting into very, very specific stuff. But all you need to worry about is elbow extension. Keep these shoulders stable if you're trying to work all three heads of the triceps. And this is the leverage. Oh, cut off my fucking chart. But this is my little chart here, taken from Beardsley, because I like some of his infographics, even though a lot of people misquote his information all the fucking time. But I think his infographics are pretty solid, and he makes good ones. So this just illustrates to you that the long head, when the arm is by the side, it has good leverage here. Okay? That's it. Oh, is that it? We finished? Okay. Well, that kind of concludes the presentation here. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And if you want to see a lower body video of me going over the, basic anatomy for lifters, let me know. I can explain that for you as well. I hope you gained some value about this. I hope I was able to clear some misconceptions up. And ultimately, just train hard, go to the gym, be consistent, clean up your diet, and you're going to be just fine. And DM me for coaching, brother. Okay?